Welcome, everybody, to the Outer Spaces podcast intro. So today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Joseph Mills from Riverside Landscape and Design in Richmond, Virginia. And we had a great conversation about how he's new in business. He's been in business now on his own for about 3 years, and he's learned so much in 3 years. And he starts off with a story about how he got screwed on change orders by not getting signatures and how he fixed that problem. And then we talked a lot about mindset, of course, and what he learned. He went to college for horticulture and for landscape design, but it did not prepare him for life. It did not prepare him for owning his own business and dealing with all of that. He had to go out and create his own network of mentors in order to help him through. And we work through how he gains confidence, how he builds trust in himself. So this is definitely an episode you're not going to want to miss, especially if you're just new in business, starting out in the outdoor living arena or the landscape or the hardscape world. This one's going to hit home, so don't miss this one. Hello, and welcome to Outer Spaces, a podcast dedicated to empowering designers and contractors in the outdoor living space. Through this show, I hope to create a powerful resource for you, someone who is trying to grow their company but might not have all the tools and processes to do so. On Outer Spaces, we're passionate about breaking the chains of small mindsets and helping contractors just like you take control of their businesses and their lives. My name is Joshua Gillow, and through my 25 years of dirt under the nails experience, I look forward to sharing tips, strategies, and other contractor success stories here on the Outer Spaces podcast. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, welcome back to the Outer Spaces podcast, sponsored by Yes Express, where we teach you how to get more yeses with less stress. So today, Joe is on. He is the owner of Riverside Landscape and Design in Richmond, Virginia. He started in business in 2019, right after he graduated college. And he actually started a little earlier than that. He has about 10 years experience in the industry overall. He is young and hungry, and I love young and hungry people. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Josh, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, brother. So, hey, I want to start out with a story. Before we hit go, we started talking about one of your most interesting client experiences working with clients. So please have us enjoy your conversation. So shoot us with this story.
Okay, perfect. So last fall, my company connected with a landscape architect, and he started feeding us projects because he didn't want to install. He just wanted to design. So we formed a good relationship. And he introduced us to this client. I'm just going to call her Jay. So anyway, Jay and her husband were redoing their entire property, right? So they had a stonemason there for about 2 years, just doing stuff, like refacing the entire fronts of their house, everything. So they were turning this classic old farmhouse into like this beautiful, like art mansion. I mean, just really cool stuff. So they hired us to do all the landscape, drainage, and a few grading and seeding things. So we were working for them, and it was probably about the third or fourth day we were there. And they said, "Hey, Joe, we would really like you to add, some drain rock around the fronts of our, front of the planting bed that we were doing." And I said, "Okay, that wasn't in contracted what I was contracted to do, but I would be happy to, write you up a quote.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we could do." And they were like, "Oh no, just add it to my tab."
Oh boy.
Famous last words.
Yes,
Josh.
yes.
So I was young and dumb, and I was like, "Cool." I never had a customer just like add it to my tab. I was like,
yeah.
Awesome. So we get through the job when we've probably done about 10 change orders for her in varying degrees. Some of it was drain rock, some of it was extra grading, bringing in extra soil. I remember that there were a couple contractors who had like left debris on site or like hadn't moved their bulk piles. And so we had a skid steer there for the majority of the project. So I basically rented her an operator and a machine for the day, like one of my guys, and they just moved piles around. He spent the entire day just moving piles around the property. Mm-hmm. And a couple other things. And so when I got to the end, the way that I had structured it is that there was going to be in total 4 payments. So that there was the down payment, there was midway through the project, and then there was end of the project. And then the fourth one was all of the change orders that were put together through the project. And they amounted to about $10,000. they got that email for the change orders, and I didn't hear from them for like 2 weeks. And, my time due is like 15 days,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, okay, maybe they're just really busy. I extended it to 30, right?
Mm.
So then they finally come back on day 29 and send me an email, and they were like, hey, this is bullshit. They were like, if you think you can take advantage of us just because we're rich,
Oh boy.
if you think you can take advantage of us
Oh
just
man.
because we're rich, you have another thing coming. And they were like, we're not going to pay this. And I was like, oh, Joe.exe has stopped working. Like I was like, what the hell? So I called the landscape architect, and he was like, I have no idea why they're doing this. He said, let me call them and figure it out. So I said, okay. He comes back to me like 2 hours later, and he's like, hey, they just think you're trying to take advantage of them. They had no idea that all this was going to cost that much. And I said, well, I offered to write them quotes each time, and they said, oh no, just add it to our tab. So here's the tab. And the landscape architect was like, I'm not sure what you want to do. Maybe you can work out a payment schedule with them. And I was like, okay. So I tried contacting them again, nothing. I ended up going to their house a bunch of times, knocking on the door. They wouldn't answer the door, even though the stonemason that's been there for 2 years, he was working outside, and he probably was getting paid. So
yeah.
What it ended up to is I ended up discounting the final invoice amount from 10,000 to 7,500.
Okay.
And I got paid.
Wow. How long did it take them to pay after you discounted it?
Probably took them about a week to pay.
Okay. But that was a bit of a relief, right?
Yeah, bit of a relief. One of my mentors at the time, so there was an issue with this probably about 2 months ago, that their warranty for their plant material was kind of coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they knew that. So at the very end, they decided to call me and say, hey, a bunch of these plants died. We need you to come out and replace them. So customary with our warranty, yeah, of course we're going to go out and replace them. But they had also just dinged me out $2,500.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of me was pretty salty about that.
For sure.
And one of my mentors said, when you gave them the discount, you could have given them a bigger discount and then said, unfortunately, I have to, not extend. It's not the right word. I have to null your warranty on your plant material. So probably should have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But we went out and replaced the plants. It was fine. I was a little salty about doing it, but we did it because it's the right thing to do. So
right. Man, it's amazing you tell a story like that, because I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to those kinds of things. And I've got plenty of broken bones and black eyes from that very similar situation in my early years, where it was like, yeah, just add it to my tab, or no big deal. We'll settle up at the end. That's another good one. Yeah, just take care of it. Your machine's here. Just take care of it. And then you come back with the $3,500 change order at the very end, and they're like, what's that for? I'm like, that's when you said you wanted us to take this whole bank and roll it down and redo the whole thing with sod. This is what it costs. And I was afraid in the beginning, if I told my number, they'd say no. So I would just be like, yeah, we'll figure it out later. And the next thing you know, later came, and it's all about expectations, right, Joe? It's all about expectations. For them, they were probably thinking, well, these guys are here working. What's that, like maybe $7,500, $5,000, $7,500, $10,000. Oh my God, that becomes out of their expectation range. So what did you learn overall from that? What do you do different now?
Everything is in contract, even change orders.
Mm-hmm.
So usually what I'll do is, if they come to me with a change order, I'll say, okay, we're going to rate you up quote. And I still have some people be like, oh, no, it's fine. And I'm like, no, just humor me on this one. And they're like, okay. So I'll send them a quote. And 5 times out of 10 now, if we're working on current projects, so 50% of the time, they're like, whoa, that's more than I was expecting. And I'm like, well, that's what it costs. They're like, but you're already here. Like, you don't have any travel. I was like, well, we still have high material costs. We still have to pay for our overhead because that's extra time that we're devoting to your project. So, but luckily the other 50% people are cool with it. So then I actually write up a formal contract, again, similar to the work that we're already doing contract, but another contract to denote this is the change order. This is what we're doing. This is what you're agreeing to. And then they go ahead and pay 50% on the, like a down payment for the change order.
Nice. That's good.
So that's worked out well. And all of my install jobs now are in contract.
Yeah.
I was doing that one. It was a really weak contract. It was like, oh, you'll pay this amount and you'll at least pay it all by the end, something
Yeah.
really weak sauce like
Yep.
that. Right. So now everything is firmed up. I have one of my mowing clients works in legal. So she connected me to a really cool lawyer that I've been working with, and he reviewed everything and added some legalese to it to protect me. So
Good.
we're in a better spot now. So
For sure. Did it take a little bit to get a lawyer involved? Because I know when I first started, I'm like, I don't want lawyers involved. I don't want any extra steps involved for my clients. I'm afraid they're going to say no if I give them too many things, too many hoops to hop through. Did you find any of that? Or did you like, you know what, after I got burned, it didn't matter?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of
That's how it usually
after I got
works.
burned,
Yep.
but
Bring
I
in the
made sure
team.
to. I explained to the lawyer. I said, "Hey, listen, I don't really want anything like super complicated. I just want to be protected."
Yes.
And he was like, "Okay, understand." So what he came up with, I think, fits the bill pretty well, and it still allows some custom room to custom to like specific contracts.
Yeah.
And it's just like a form that I can plug and play off of.
Yeah. Well, these are the things you got to learn in business. They don't teach you that stuff in school, do they?
No, this is like I got a horticulture degree. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a landscape design and horticulture degree, right? So I had to take, I think, like one or two business classes as part of the degree, and they just scraped the surface. They weren't even specific to contracting, they were just specific to running a business.
Yeah.
So, like, it scraped the surface. And even, like, I learned a lot of like how to learn about plants, how to educate clients. Like that's what school is so great for, right?
Yep.
And then it teaches you all the working with other people, the collaboration, getting stuff done on time, having huge, projects and things and managing all that. Nothing prepares you when you come out of school. And I went to work for one of the biggest landscape companies in the United States after I graduated, not Brightview, but somebody else. As a maintenance foreman. So when I graduated, I went and worked for them. So nothing in school prepares you for walking back to your truck and seeing three guys shooting up heroin in your back seat.
Oh, shit.
So as a young college student, I was like, holy shit.
They don't have classes for that?
Yeah, they don't have classes for heroin users. Yeah. So I was so green. I was like, and I called my manager, and my manager was like, "Well, are they still working?" And I was like,
Could they walk?
I don't know if they're working that well, to be honest with you."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay, well, we'll see it. We'll see him at the end of the day." And only two of them ended up getting fired. The other one, I don't know how he didn't get fired, but he didn't.
Wow.
So
incredible.
Yeah.
I guess the help is tough to find. So it's crazy. It's some crazy stuff. So, Joe, take us back to your story. How did you get into this industry? What do you love about it? Take us down the path of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So the story that I tell almost everybody, and it's very common, is that I remember being 4 years old, and my first memory was looking out the window and watching my neighbor's lawn being mowed with Exmark turf tracers, and I was like, I want to do that. And so, a lot of kids when they're growing up have like the whole, oh, I love garbage trucks. I love dump trucks, like I love trucks. And, eventually maybe they start to grow out of it. I just never grew out of it. So by the time I was in elementary school and my parents sent me to chess camp one summer, they thought that, chess would be something good for me to learn and challenging the mind. Well, I wasn't really that good at chess camp because the teacher apparently sent pictures to my parents, and I was away from everybody in the corner, and I was watching, and it's in the picture. There is, it looks like they were constructing like a baseball field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just staring out the window, watching all that going on, and people were playing chess, and they were like, hey, Joe, we really need you to join this game. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I need to watch this. This is more important.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was pretty much common through all my years of school. I remember being in middle school and I could like watch any trailer go by and I could name off all the mowers and guess the deck sizes and know the engines that go with them and stuff like that. And I just, it wasn't impressive to anybody else in middle school, but it was pretty impressive to me. So
paying off now, right?
Yeah, paying off now. But I was in 8th grade and I credit my mom a lot. My mom works at George Mason University. And she works in the career counseling department. And so she works a lot with employers, she works a lot with students. Um, and so she was like, hey, you really need to think about how to create a professional profile for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in eighth grade, I knew that I wanted to own my own landscape design build company and maintenance. And I knew that in eighth grade. And, going into high school, I was like, this is what I want to do. So I started a little company in high school called Townhouse Yards. And the reason I did that is because I saw a niche that I lived in townhouses and there was a huge, market for just doing the little backyards in townhouses because the big companies wouldn't meet their margins to go over there. And we had people like Valley Crest doing the common areas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I started a business just focused on doing the small areas in backyards. And then as I could get my driver's license and expand to other neighborhoods, I was able to grow that into more, single family homes, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Townhouse Yards was a really great first lesson example in how to run a business. It was a lot lower stakes because I lived with my parents. And so, my equipment I put in my garage downstairs, I had a truck. I didn't even have a trailer. I had a 36-inch Exmark and I used to take ATV ramps and load it into the back of my Ford Ranger and zoom around town thinking I was hot shit. So, yeah, I remember my senior year of high school, I thought I was really hot shit because I had a bunch of teachers that I had asked me to mow for them over the summer while they went on vacation or something. So I was like, oh, I'm doing the teachers' houses. I must be something. No, not really. So there was that. And I also worked at Merrifield Garden Center for a time. That was a retail garden center in my area. And Townhouse Yards became so big, probably around my junior year, that I actually quit working at Merrifield Garden Center. And then I started buying from Merrifield Garden Center plants and mulch, the same people that I had been working with, but now I was on the contractor side.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a cool memory. And then at the end of senior year, it was probably mid-junior year, and my parents were really pushing me to apply to school. And I was like, no, I don't need college. I can just keep doing my business, self-made, whatever. I can do this. And my mom and dad, they were pushing me and they were like, listen, you just have this piece of paper to fall back on, right? So, there's this huge debate about college and whether it's really worth it for everybody. And I'm of the opinion that it's not for everybody. And you don't need to go to college to be successful. I did go to college. And yeah, I do think a portion of my success is based on my schooling.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to give it 100%, right? Because experience, I think, outweighs just about everything.
100%.
So my parents were like, hey, you'll have this big degree, you'll have this paper to fall back on. And knowing what I know now, I'm not going to try to sound cocky, but I could walk into almost any landscape company in America right now and make a good case for why you should hire me and why I'd be a productive member of your staff. And a degree is a really great starting and sounding off point. But I think my experience as a business owner, my experience as a foreman, my experience as a salesperson, that I can really help in your business. So that's been one of the main things that's kept me going in my business, is knowing that, hey, if this shit goes south, I can't make any money. I can close up and I can go get a job anywhere and I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I am grateful to my parents for pushing me to do that. And my time at tech was unparalleled. So I don't really have any regrets there.
That's really cool. And the parents always have the best interest in mind usually, right? So even my mother, when I graduated high school, she's like, so what are you going to do now? And I honestly didn't know. We were doing landscaping stuff. I didn't know what the next step was. I'm like, I'm just going to keep making money. And she's like, what if you, just in case, I think just like your mother said, just have something to fall back on. What if you went to a local technical school and you studied something there, so you had something to fall back on? And I took the bait and I was like, okay. So I didn't live there. I went back and forth, and I was still in a business and worked at a restaurant too, all those things at the same time. And, I after 2 years, got a degree in architectural drafting and engineering. Right. And it's, to this day, I haven't really used anything that I got there, right? But it's like, oh, you can always have that as a backup. And, it wasn't landscape design by any means, or outdoor living design or any of that stuff. But I think, and this is what I want to segue into my next question for you is, in college, how much did it teach you about communication and sales from the business side, not just plants and procedures and, what is always, design strategies and things like that? How did they actually prepare you for communicating with clients and money?
So I think that's a really great thing. There wasn't any like specific like teacher that sat down and was like, okay, we're gonna talk about how you sell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was more just what I learned through all 4 years of how to talk to people. So I was in horticulture club at Virginia Tech for all 4 years, right? So I started out just doing, they're organizing the plant sale. I worked my way up to being, the treasurer, and then I was the president my senior year. And through all those positions, communication is paramount because
Mm-hmm.
you're a sophomore in college and you're talking to nurseries, that are 3 hours away from you about a $30,000 order that you're placing. So as a sophomore in college, that's a pretty big deal, and you learn about communication and email etiquette just like through doing stuff. Um, so I think one of the biggest, at least training points for me was that we were in a landscape design class, and we were talking about selling a project, and it was like half a unit. It was very tiny, but my landscape design professor, Scott Douglas, was walking us through doing a takeoff, and he said, once you don't pull all your material quantities and you start putting in your markups, he said, you're going to have to come up with a full like set price to sell to your client. And I think somebody in the back asked, how do you sell it? And he said, you have to be confident.
Mm.
He said, that's really the only way they're going to. He said, they obviously chose you for a reason, right? So you just have to assume that you're the only contractor in the room. And then you just have to exude that confidence. And I didn't have that confidence at that age. I was just like, oh, everybody's probably better than me, like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that did teach me a decent lesson, and something I just try to sell with today is that sell it like you're the only contractor that they're talking to, and that they want you for some specific reason, and that you're the best qualified one for the job. I mean, it just takes a lot of self-confidence, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
still working on that. But I think that that's one of the best ways that you can sell. And, the money kind of just works off that where, oh, you have this confidence. Yes, this is the cost associated with it, but this is the cost to make your dreams come true. And again, just, steamrolling and just making that money just a side effect of your sale, right? So you're selling the experience. You're not
Mm-hmm.
selling, the pack. You're not selling the money side. You're not selling a $30,000 landscape. You're selling an oasis, a little small spot for them to get away after work and their kids and all that to make memories. And that's what you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
The money is just how you get there, but that's not, the end goal. So you have to sell the end goal. And then most people will just accept that, hey, this money is part of it. And that's how we're going to get to our end goal. Now, it's completely different if you're trying to sell to them out of your budget. It's a different strategy, right? So I always just try to work within their budget and be at the top end, but not
Mm-hmm.
over, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's easy to sell that way. So
Now you mentioned confidence and building that confidence. Um, I think you're spot on with that, dude. If you're confident in what you're communicating or selling to somebody, there's a much higher probability that you're going to move forward with that than if you come in looking at the ground, kicking your shoes with your hands in your pocket saying, you don't want to buy this from me, do you? Right? It's not going to work. So my question to you is, how are you building that confidence? You had mentioned in school that wasn't you, but now obviously owning a business, you have to have some confidence, right? So how are
yeah.
you working daily, monthly, yearly, whatever, to gain that confidence so that you can keep growing your business? How are you doing that?
So I am grateful that I have about 5 or 6 mentors that I talk to, either on a monthly basis or a biweekly basis. And I'll give him a couple shout outs, but Todd Walters with Valley Landscapes based in Christiansburg, Virginia. He's number one.
Nice.
I can call Todd right now and be like, hey, I got a problem. And he's like, all right, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But Josh Kane, Kane Landscapes in Sterling, Virginia. You want to talk about outdoor living? I mean, they do some insane stuff with outdoor living. And then BWS in Richmond, Brad Swartzel built a very impressive company. So I talk to him occasionally. So there's others, but I am able to talk to people, other business owners, and say, hey, I'm going through this right now. How would you deal with this? And I think it was best summed up. I was talking to Billy Barron. He's a local business owner. He owns a company called
Mm-hmm.
Bethlehem Hardscapes, and he
Mm-hmm.
does really integral, really cool hardscape stuff. And he's like, dude, he's like, I don't know, man, but he said, I just go in there and pretend like I'm the only contractor in the room,
Yep.
And he said, I just sell because they want Bethlehem, they want me, right? So being able to talk to other contractors, and I think, if you're polite about it and you develop that personal relationship, and it isn't just them, hearing from you and being like, hey, I got this problem. Hey, I got this problem. I got a problem. Like, you're going to wear out the relationship that way. So you have to bring something else to the relationship. So what I do is I listen to their staffing needs, and I know a bunch of people who are graduating looking for jobs, and I'll just shoot them all their way. And I'll be
Nice.
like, hey, you should talk to Heather. She's graduating with a landscape design degree, and she's trying to live in the area. She doesn't know what she wants to do, but she could be a really good candidate for what you're trying for with your client representative, right? So I was able to do that with this girl who graduated from the tech program. She had a landscape design degree, and she was in the Virginia Beach area, and she wanted to kind of stay in the area, but she wanted to be more creative. She was working in a garden center and it's just ordering plants, and it just wasn't what she wanted to do. So I connected her with Horizon Grounds in Virginia Beach, and now she's a client rep for them, and she gets to sell enhancements and do design stuff. So that's what I bring to the relationship, is that I know a lot of people. I know a lot of students who are looking for jobs. So I'm able to bring the positivity that way and send people their way. And that's the value that I bring to them, at least right now.
And what I love about what you just said is the fact that you aren't just going with your hands out to these other, people in your market saying, "Hey, help me, please. I'm a victim. Help me. I need some help." You're coming with value, right? There's something we always talk here at Yes Express about is value first. If you want to do anything, business, relationships, whatever, bring value first. Bring so much value, and don't ask for anything. Just bring the value. The money will follow later, right? Instead of focusing on the income, focus on the outcome. And when you
Yes.
do that and you start focusing on a bigger outcome, you start building a tribe, as you've already done, which is beautiful, right? You start building a tribe of people that you can just pick up a phone and call, and they're like, heck yeah, we're taking care of Joe. Joe, he adds value to this tribe. He adds value. He listens. He brings people my way. That's how you build a solid relationship instead of just running around like, please help me with your hand out. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you've realized that early, especially being young and hungry. That's how you'll grow quickest. And I love that you're already implementing that, dude. That's so important. Um, what do you think that the best advice you've ever received from one of your mentors?
Oh, that's a hard one. I've received plenty of advice. A lot of it I didn't listen to. I should
Mm-hmm.
have. um, I think probably the best advice I've received was probably from Todd at Valley. And the context for this was I was cash poor, right? So I don't think it's talked about enough in the landscape industry that when you're starting, and I'm in, year 2.5 or so of, being in business. So I'm still like fairly young, but cash flow and your finances and lenders, all of that world is brand new,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's just not talked about a lot.
Especially not in college, right?
Yeah, no,
It's
absolutely not.
another one, kick you out of the nest and say, fly, bitch, fly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's drop kick you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more like it.
Um, so I was cash poor, and I called him and I said, hey, if this all goes south, you think you could hire me? You think you have a spot for me? And he said, we don't have a spot for you. He said, not because we don't have a spot, but he said, I'm not going to allow you to give up this quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He said, all of this will pass. Um, he said, I remember being, with my company being so young, and his storage space, he used to rent spot from a farmer at like a dairy barn, right? And so he would come home from work and he'd be smelling like cow shit, even though he doesn't work in dairy, but that's where he kept all his stuff. And, he would come home and he would be like, oh, well, got $200 in my checking account, maybe the McDonald's dollar menu is looking real good right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, probably the best advice I've ever received, as cliche as it is don't give up. Like, all of this will pass. And it's not about, being scared. It's about just having, again, the wherewithal to understand that you have value and that you will come around this the other side. And I still have moments where I'm fairly scared about cash flow and how our finances look. But, it's just, it's going to happen. It's going to come to pass. And so that's a lot of trust to put into something. But you have to have that trust in yourself that you're going to be fine. So again, it's probably the best advice I've ever received, but it's still something that gives me pause pretty much on a daily basis.
And when you say trust in yourself, how are you actively building trust in yourself? Because all trust starts within us. If we want to say trust is out there, eventually one day I'll trust somebody when they're worthy of trust. No, it starts within your soul. When you trust yourself, you can trust other people fully. So how have you been managing and growing that?
So I think that I give trust in myself from looking at my history. So our history of completed jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember these success stories from that, how happy our clients are. And I'm like, okay, no, you're not faking it till you make it right now. Like, you're really doing it. So just allowing myself to be happy with myself for once, because I'm a very critical person of myself. Always the first one to point out my flaws or something like that. So um, I don't say that I even trust myself 100%, but I do know that in terms of certain projects, we know what we're doing. We're very competent. We have good people. Like, my crew is very competent. Like, they're just genuinely good people, right? So I have trusted myself because I'm able to look at our history and I'm able to look at our past jobs and I'm able to say, we did that right. We did right by them. So I need to trust myself because this is the same situation.
Right. There's always the emotional feeling of trust, and there's also the capture of that trust, or the seeing it around you, right? And when you see it around you in projects, as you do, you're like, look back through a photo book and you're like, damn, we killed that thing. That is amazing. We can do that 1,000 more times. My team, the competency of my team, because with competency comes, all of your confidence, right? You're like, okay, I know that we can do this. So confidence comes from it. If you're trying to go out and sell your first landscape or your first outdoor living space that has a pool, a deck, a patio, and all this stuff, and you've only ever planted plants, now you're hiring subcontractors and all, there's a lot of risk in that, right? There's a lot
Yep.
of fear comes up. A lot of those saboteurs start shaking your cage like, dude, you've never done this before. You're crazy. What are you doing? You're going to lose money. You're going to lose your shirt. You're going to take this whole thing under. And my suggestion would be, if you're heading in that direction, is to just take it slow, right? Just add one extra piece, add a subcontractor in there if you want to for a deck or a pool or something, and just keep working. Eventually they stack, right? They start stacking, and you're doing really cool projects after a while. And you're like, man, I remember back when just planting plants was nerve wracking. And now we're able to do all of these different things because we learn competency as we move through, each a step at a time. You don't need the whole thing at once. Take your time, do that
Yeah.
deck, add the
Yeah.
pool in the next project, and keep moving up. Have you found it to be a similar path?
Yeah. There's definitely projects that I've referred to other people because it's too advanced
Yeah.
for me. And that takes a lot of sucking it up on my part because I want to do the big fancy cool projects. I want to have that photo book loop, but no, we do actually one of the things that we're really becoming known for is drainage. Um, you wouldn't think of drainage as like a mainstay in a business. It's just an add-on that you do with patios or whatever, but we're becoming known for it. We've got a project that we're working on actively right now. It's a $52,000 contract, and we're redoing a bunch of drainage for a condo complex. We're working in a couple different courts to redo how the stormwater and the groundwater manipulates itself through the landscape. And we're just coming up with really smart solutions about how that water can be managed, but not, in this huge colossal grand thing. We're using small, innovative solutions to channel that water through the landscape. Because the project was, the condo complex was built in the 80s, and it was built with a natural grade plan, right? So they just didn't cut to make a flat space, cut and fill or whatever. They just carved out shelves in the landscape. But the problem is that Chesterfield County was built on a swamp. So, you're going to have that water drainage issue. So we've been working with them. This is our second or third project with them. And so we're just able to, I can take this $52,000 project where we're working in multiple courts and, our our project list is just this like yay mile long that we're just trying to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And I could take that to a smaller drainage job and have the confidence to tell the homeowner, yes, we can do 2 downspout takeoffs with clean outs. We've got a couple catch basins. We'll run a 6-inch pipe out here, to daylight our pipe. And those smaller drainage projects now just become like peanuts compared to doing whole condo courts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I just want to say that we're not doing this project with anything fancy, right? So, I have a long-term rent on an excavator. I have a long-term rent on a mini skid. We have our tools that we shuttle there in my open mowing trailer because I don't have an enclosed trailer yet. So our tools shuttle there, and then when we get back to the shop at the end of the day, we unload it and we put the mowers on, or whatever we're doing. And so we have all this. We're not doing anything super crazy. We're just doing it, and it's me and 2 guys. And I mean, those 2 guys are extremely confident, but this is not a huge crew. We're not a huge established company, but we're getting it done, and they have the trust in us to do this and create these solutions because they already trusted us with this one court that was giving them tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage because of flooding in crawl spaces, right? So then they hired us and all of it stopped.
Amazing.
So now, now we have that confidence, we have that trust with them, and we can come back and achieve this really big, monstrous project. And now they want us to bid on the maintenance for them.
Nice.
So that we're there all the time and that we can, see problems before they become a big deal. So
value first.
Yeah,
show them the value.
just bring confidence. And I say all that because literally, like, I'm nothing fancy. I mean, like I said, I have 2 guys. I'm looking for a 3rd guy right now to kind of finish out that crew. And I'm getting ready to go buy a truck, probably later today, buy a 2nd truck for that crew so I can get somebody dedicated and get somebody rolling. And I could go out and bid more projects, right? That's the hope. So
yes, absolutely, Joe.
We're nothing fancy. We're, still in the very grind stages, but I don't go out and pretend that we're anything great, but I know the value we bring. I know the quality we bring. So I can sell based on that.
You already are great because you already know that. You already know that you're bringing value to people, and that's really what it's all about. The numbers of crews and volume of sales doesn't mean shit. What means the difference is that you're out there helping the people, truly helping them, and solving problems for them on a way that, and on a scale that they have all these issues where you said tens of thousands of dollars in damage constantly, and you fix the problem, dude. That makes you great. You know, it's all how you wire what success means, right? And success is when you've got happy clients and you're doing a great job and you love what you do. I mean, what else in life is there, right? If you can have a servant's heart and you can just keep giving and keep doing what you love, and you have others in your tribe, your teammates that are out there doing exactly what they love to do, and you're all coming together. I mean, that's what it's all about, dude. It's not about numbers and scale, and you're not going to be the size of, these huge conglomerates. You don't want to be.
Yeah.
You want to have control over your destiny. You want to be able to be out there doing what you love to do. You want to say, you know what? No, today we're going to do this project instead of that one, and have control over your life. And it's powerful, dude. And that's why we're crazy enough, you and I and many people listening, to be on our own and be out there every day, with killing and bringing it in for dinner, and like just every day, just going out there doing it, right? And that grind that's in you now, don't lose it. Because you're going to need it later. Don't think it gets easier later. It just gets different. Anybody listening that's grown a business, I've been in 25 years in this industry, and I started off very similar to what Joe's talking about here. And man, it changes. And you have to keep growing as a person. The business constantly keeps putting a mirror up in front of your face and saying, "Are you enough? Are you ready? Are you enough? Are you ready?" Right? A business does that like nothing else. That's why most people won't get into business, because it's too real and raw for them. They've got to constantly be looking in at themselves and saying, what do I need to do to become the person to do that, to grow a business, to grow a team, to be a leader? And that's really fucking scary.
Yes.
Right? There's no way to get around that. It's really scary stuff. And if some people have the guts to do it, and stand out there every day taking the beating of the storms, the rain, the winds, all of that stuff, and others aren't. And that's okay. Everybody just has to know their path. But I have such mad respect, especially in our industry, for business owners, because I know what it takes. And I know that it takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of confidence, a lot of being slapped in the face, and that's the one last question I have for you is, how do you handle failure? It's inevitable, right? It's
Yeah.
coming. It's gonna be here. You can't avoid it. How do you handle it right now?
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, I have failures all the given time. Like I have a project that, it's a nice sized project, right? And, I went out and looked at it on August 5th and it's August 30th, right? And I am just getting ready to send in the quote. That's like stupid. Like my turnaround time should be way faster. And so I consider that a failure on my part because I'm not getting to it fast enough. Now, granted, it's a complicated project. There's a lot of, legwork that I had to do to get to this quote. A lot of nurseries that I had to call, a lot of people that I had to reach out to, find everything for this project. So, but I definitely take it as a personal failure. I don't take it on the chin, probably like I should. I definitely absorb a lot of that into myself. And that's definitely something that I'm working on. I don't think that I'm really that good at it yet. I'm working on becoming better at dealing with failure and not personally attaching it to me and my, my well-being as a person, and not attaching it to my worth as a person. I think that's a big thing, that a lot of people think that they're worth less because of their failures and because of everything that they're going through. And I think there's a huge problem in the industry that they don't talk about, that with depression among contractors. And it's a huge thing. Nobody wants to talk about it, but I think it's something worth talking about. So I definitely think that learning to handle failure in a healthy way is more important than what compactor you have or what cutoff saw you have. Because you could have the best equipment in the world, but if you can't handle failure, you're not going to last very long in the business. So I guess to answer your question, I'm not going to say that I've taken failure well, but I've worked out a system to where I can allow myself to be upset, to be angry at myself, but then process it, move on, and find a solution.
That's amazing, dude. I'm glad you realized that, because I wasn't as smart when I was younger. I internalized everything. If a client said no to a project or got mad, it was directed directly at my soul. Like it went right inside me. I couldn't sleep at night, nerve-wracked, anxiety, all that stuff, because I'm like, I failed. I fucked up again. How many times am I going to do this? You're a failure. You're ever going to get it right? Right? That constant head trash, that voice in your head that just constantly knocking you down, right? It's there. Those saboteurs are very real, and they want everything to do everything in their power to keep you small. And when you want to grow a business, or you just want to start a business for that, you're going to be running into this. And I've had to rewire a lot of that too, just like you're dealing with, right? I had to rewire a lot of that and say, you know what? I never fail. I learn. Right? First of all, I'm not going to give the saboteurs the right to that. This is learning. You can go to college and you can try to learn everything perfect, but you're not going to get everything you need in life, right?
Not even close.
Even if you didn't even go to college and you started a business, and get rolling with that, you're going to run into things. And I've learned throughout my career and throughout my life that in the beginning, I tried to avoid conflicts and everything like the plague. I would do I'd say yes to everybody, so I didn't have to deal with facing bigger problems, right? Because then I would have to deal with the fact that I messed up, and I didn't like that. So what I would do is I would learn how to stay under the umbrella and stay out of the rain any way I could, stay under the overhang, like stay out of the rain being the craziness, the failures of life, right? Try to stay away from them as much as possible and avoid them. And it wasn't until I realized I had to get really good at dancing in the rain, right? Bring on your nastiest problems, your biggest, whatever it might be. Just bring it on. I can handle it. God gave me enough inside of me right now that I can handle it. I might not have all the answers. I might not have a protocol in place yet, but I know nothing somebody says to me can knock me down. They're words. They're letters formed in a certain pattern. The meaning that those words have are directly coming from your brain. Your brain is telling you what they mean. It's assigning a meaning to it. So if you're assigning that meaning where, you know what, Joe, you messed up again. That wasn't a good idea. You're a failure, an idiot. If you keep running that in your head, you will be that. And that's where the depression kicks in. And that's where all that, because you keep hearing that same negative voice. But if you're like, you know what, you have to hijack your brain. You have to say, no, stop it. As soon as that starts, stop it. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I messed up. I'm learning. I'm new in business. This is very normal. I have people I can go to. I have a tribe. You're smart enough to do that. Reach out to people in your environment, in your people listening out there, listeners to this podcast. Reach out to people around you. I guarantee there are many of them for no money at all that are willing to help you. They just want to help and share. They've been through it before. There's no point in you going out there and reinventing the wheel because you're too proud to ask for help, or you're not able to be or want to be vulnerable because you're a man. You can't be vulnerable. Some of the most powerful men I know are vulnerable within their tribe. They will tell you exactly what they made a mistake on, what they're learning about right now, and they will share that. So if you're only surrounding yourself with people that are pounding their chest and never make mistakes, then you need a new tribe.
Yeah.
It's not real.
100%. And you're not going to learn anything from anybody who's just doing it all right 100% of the time.
Never.
Because then they don't make any mistakes and there's nothing that you can compare or
they're lying.
Create camaraderie with. Yeah.
But they're lying. If they don't make mistakes, they're lying, or they're playing so small that it's a joke. Let's be honest. Yeah. You know as well as I do, dude, the bigger you play, the more black eyes and broken bones you're going to get. That's just what it is. It's the right of the course. There is no way around that. You cannot have, a perfect batting score. Like that just doesn't work. You're going to make mistakes. And that is all it's part of the process. You have to embrace and love those things, even though they suck.
Yeah. They suck big ones.
Right. Exactly. So. But what you did, Joe, and I have to give you plenty of credit for this. What you did is you had a problem with the story we started with here, right? With the client who took advantage of you at the end of the project with your change orders, right? You had a problem. You didn't go back and say, woe is me. I lost $2,500. Fuck them. They're a bunch of idiots. I'm going to just shut my business down. This isn't good enough. No, what did you do?
I picked myself back up and kept going.
But you put a protocol in place that you make sure everybody, this is how you solve these problems, guys. If you put a protocol, it happens once, done. Okay, that's learning. Second time is stupidity.
Yeah.
So first time you get burned, okay, good. Second time, you're like, you know what? Nope. Every single change order is going to be signed by a client. I want 50% down. I know people that get 100% down on a change order, and they mark that stuff up like crazy. The one guy I had on the podcast, he was telling us of a friend who has a boat that he paid for. It's called change order. He bought a boat with all the change order money because he has the highest margin on the change orders. Because think about it. They immediately want it now. It's that you got to scramble to make this happen. You're pushing other projects further. So you got to deal with clients that are upset because you're going to be a day or two, whatever, week late. So why aren't they at the highest margin? If they can't make their mind up ahead of time, so it's just better for you. But the reality is that you made a protocol. You said, look, problem, solution. How many times have you run into that problem since you made a protocol?
Very, very minimal at best. And usually it comes down to some very small minutia of a very specific change order. And I just point to the contract and I'm like, well, I'm sorry that happened, but you did sign this agreement. And if they're nice during the course of the project, I'll work out a payment schedule with them. But if they're not nice, if you can't pay, you'll get a call from my lawyer.
Yep. Move them through. And the fact that you set that up, you're going to find little bumps in that, that protocol as well. You're like, okay, this worked. That's great to solve that problem. But now I have all these other problems. Yeah. So then you're like, okay, it's a constant thing. That's business that never goes away. I'm going to be a spoiler alert here. It never goes away. It's just becomes different. And as you get better at problem solving and problem solution focusing like that, where you put a protocol in place, pretty soon you have systems. Then as you grow your company, you're like, all right, well, Joe, this happened. Your team leader comes to you and said, Joe, this happens. Well, this is how we always handle it. Yeah. You don't have to go back and try to reinvent the wheel. It's already done. Okay, well, every single change order gets a signature and they put 50% down. It's not a surprise at the end when they have two change orders and they sign two documents for change orders. And here's a difference of $5,000. It should be not a surprise. Expectations should be met.
Yeah. And so then at the end with the payment schedule, if, we get to the final invoice and I'm like, hey, this is the final invoice. It's not truly the final invoice because we have, those change orders at the end. Mm-hmm. And there's just that little push, that little reminder. And they're like, oh, yeah. So that'll come after this. Okay.
Yep. So. Set those expectations and deliver. Well, Joe, I've definitely enjoyed our conversation today. And if people want to reach out to you and talk to you, a little bit about how you started your business, or heck, even want you to mentor them as they're starting their business. That's the beautiful part about this, guys. We all have a little candle and we can light each other's candles, and not one person's candle goes out or even gets smaller. Like if I hand Joe to light his candle from my candle stays the same or gets brighter because his is also brighter. So the entire room becomes brighter. That's the beautiful part about all this. And he's finding that out through mentorships. I'm so happy you found that out. It took me way too long to realize that. I was an island for most of my career, figuring out that a little too late. But then once I did, I was like, oh my goodness, man, I missed this. And now I'm in it, right? So I have mentors and coaches on every single level of my life for that reason. And it's made all the difference in everything. So Joe, how can people find you if they want to reach out and see if you can help them?
So I do have Facebook and Instagram pages for my company, which is Facebook is Riverside Landscape and Design LLC. Instagram is at Riverside Richmond. But you can also reach out to me personally if you want to. Joe Mills, Joe.Mills_96 on Instagram is my personal. It's public, and you can reach out to me or DM me there. Always happy to help people out. I think that's really cool that you think that, people would want to have me mentor them. I don't pretend to know what I'm doing 100% of the time at all. I am more than happy to help and tell you how I moved on and from this failure and how to prevent you from achieving the same failure. So I'm more than happy to do that.
I love it. I love it, Joe. And you have a servant's heart in that sense. And your story is unique. You're the only one with your fingerprint. So your story is unique. And with your story, you have the power to change the world. Just don't squander it. That's all I ask. Don't squander it. Share it, even if you think it's insignificant. Share it with people because they are going to grow from it. I grew a lot from just listening today from your story, right? And I'm sure a lot of the listeners will as well because they can relate to starting out. Everybody had to start out at some point, right? So you just keep the grind and keep rolling, dude, because you're killing it. And I love that we've had this conversation, man. So guys, if you have, obviously our goal here on the Outer Spaces is to have conversations with people like Joe that are starting out or in the trenches doing the things that we're doing each and every day and some of their struggles and things. Maybe we'll learn something, right? Worst cases, we'll learn something. So I appreciate everybody listening. Our goal is to impact and empower 2 million, and we're well on our way to that because of your incredible sharing and all of that. If you love this episode and you want to share it with someone, it's amazing. Also, if you love it, leave us a review. The more reviews we have, the more it pushes it up in the overall podcast sphere, if you will, and the more people will find it in our industry and be able to hear amazing stories like Joe just shared with us, and hopefully get some wind in their sail and they can keep growing. So, Joe, any last thoughts or anything you want to bestow on our listenership before we head out?
Yeah, I have one small little thing. Virginia Tech's motto is Ut Prosum, and it means for that I may serve.
I love that.
So I've always kind of taken that to heart and realized that I serve clients. I serve at their pleasure. They don't have to choose me, right? So again, bring that value. That's the most important thing I can probably say today.
I love it, brother. Sounds awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. I appreciated our conversation, and everyone listening out there, get out there and be dangerous. Talk to you next week.